Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello and welcome to the School of Love, the place where we learn practical tools based on scientific research and our own experiences towards improving ourselves, living life to its fullest, and contributing to the best of our abilities to the world around us. I am Dr. Maria Grajdian. In my free time, I am doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities of the real world. Today's video is part of a newer series on life at 45. As I have entered the second half of the 45th year of my life, there are specific thoughts and emotions I have been experiencing. While these are insights coming from myself as a woman, mother, and citizen, I deeply hope they might be helpful and useful for men as well. In today's video on Life at 45, I share my thoughts on travel and how the perception and evaluation of travel have started to change as soon as I have entered the fourth decade of my life. My preoccupation with travel and the significance as well as impact travel has on the society at large has gradually taken over a central place in my quotidian activities, while simultaneously allowing me to discover dimensions of myself within me which I had not known before. Previously, I had regarded travel as something to be either enjoyed in itself or as a means to an end, that is, to visit different places for specific purposes other than entertainment. So why suddenly things started to change as soon as I and those around me hit our 40s? So this video explores the question on a personal level. So what is travel? And why do people engage in traveling? So travel is about moving from one place to another, and in the past it was mostly, like for the general population, for business or for work, right? There were very few people who engage in travel for leisure purposes, and they were all belonging to the upper classes, so to the wealthy strata of society or community of society, generally speaking. Wealthy people would spend their time divided among areas which had a gentle climate, and sometimes they would go and do some sports in, like for instance, winter sports in areas with snow, with beautiful snow. So, but that was a privilege of wealthy people, of wealthy strata of communities or societies. And things have changed in the second half of the 20th century, when more and more people could actually afford leisure time and vacations. I believe it is important not to take this for granted. Travel is really a privilege. And when I was younger, I really enjoyed traveling. And as soon as Romania opened after 1989, one of my dreams and one of the things I really wanted to do was to travel to the normal world outside of Romania, to see how people live there and to observe their lifestyles. And I did travel as soon as I was able to decide my own life. So as soon as I became legally grown up at the age of 18, and then when I moved away at the age of 19, I traveled a lot. I didn't have money, so I employed all sorts of strategies to survive while being abroad. And there was also this visa problem, so I needed to take this visa in order to be able to travel to foreign countries and also to transit foreign countries. But all this was part of an adventure towards worlds I didn't know exist, and which would allow me to observe humans and lifestyle which previously I did not even know existed. And of course, I had been watching movies, but movies are movies. You don't know if they're real. There might be an alternative to the very bleak quotidian life as 1980s in Romania were, but it's nevertheless, it was not a real world. So I wanted to see it. So I was traveling a lot and playing violin in the streets in France, Italy, and even Germany, so that I could earn money for traveling. I would get to know many people, and and then kept in touch for as long as possible. And because back then we didn't have this technology we have nowadays, we really had to interact with people. We didn't even have a mobile phone, so we really had to interact with people. We really had to deal with people. We really had to ask people questions, for instance, to ask for directions, right? We had these maps, but sometimes they were simply too expensive to buy. So I really had to ask people for directions. And it was really, so interacting with people in their own language and seeing those new worlds. And that was really fascinating. Yeah? And I spent a big bunch of my youth traveling. I was curious about the world. I was curious about how people act and interact in different parts of the world, in different cultures. This also brought me later on to Japan, which was at the surface very different. But if you move a little bit more deeply into the society, you see things are more or less the same, or those who are different, which I'm not going to get into right now. They're different and not in a good way. So travel used to be, for me, also a way of life. But it wasn't so much about being in a vacation somewhere. I never really vacationed somewhere. I always thought it's kind of boring, and I still think it's kind of boring. When I traveled, and later on I could travel for work, to conferences, and it was the same. So I would have this goal, participating in the conference and having my own presentation and networking and getting to know new people. But it was also to observe the world, to observe humans interacting and their way of being. And of course the food, which in my opinion is not about really enjoying the food, but I think food culture and food cultures reflect the lifestyle and the life philosophy and existential attitudes of those people cooking, developing, and eating those foods. So traveling was part of discovering the world. My birthday present to myself on my 40th birthday was to travel to New York. I was already in the United States for a conference, and then in Oklahoma, and then I flew from Oklahoma to New York for a couple of days. And I went to museums and to theaters and to concert halls, and I visited as much as I could in a couple of days, and it was amazing. But then something shifted, and I decided, well, traveling is fine, and it is a way of life. And by getting to know so many people and so many lifestyles and so many food cultures and so many way of living, my perspective on the world has not only become larger but also deeper, and allowed me to understand many things which only by reading books I wouldn't have understood. But at the same time I realized traveling so much and getting in touch with so many people and with so many food cultures and living situations actually hindered me from discovering my own self. And so my birthday present to myself, the trip to New York, was actually the last more or less adventure related to travel. Afterwards, I cooled down. A couple of years later, coronavirus, the pandemic also hit, which really cooled down completely all my travel tendencies. But then I could, because I needed to find my own self. Instead of spreading myself so much by traveling and developing myself outside of my limitations, which is a good thing, but I also needed to go more deeply into myself, to immerse myself into who I am, into my own identity, and to create a more solidified sense of self, which wasn't not able when constantly exposing myself to so many new endeavors, so many new adventures, so many new people and existential attitudes. I see many people around me who are only now starting to do this, to discover the world at 40, but I had done that already before. And when they tell me about it, I find it a little bit funny, because I had the same experience or similar experiences with foreign cultures, foreign people, foreign living conditions, foreign food cultures 25 years ago. And it's interesting that I'm building my own identity now after all those things actually happened. I hope this is interesting, and I hope it makes you think about your own visions of your own self and traveling and what it means to be a nomad at the beginning of your formation as a grown-up and not later on. So I also hope this helps, and as always, I'm looking forward to welcoming you here very soon again. Thank you for being there. Love and peace.